Staged.
All right. Hey, everyone. It's Matt Krevin, founder of Talk Shop. Happy to bring you another episode of my Industry Insider series. Today, I am joined by Ingrid Romero. And as I always like to do, I like to have my guests introduce themselves so I don't promote or demote them based on what they do. So, Ingrid, thanks for joining. If you could just start us off with telling us who you work for and what you do.
You bet. Thanks, Matt. And I'm really excited to be here and talk with you on Talk Shop. So my background is over 30 years in fitness. And as part of fitness was executive leadership. And I always say I was a poster child for opportunity. Started in the gyms, kind of just teaching classes as a personal trainer, worked my way up eventually at 24 Hour Fitness as a VP of fitness and overseeing fitness inside 430 locations and almost 10,000 employees. So it was a very worthwhile, amazing journey. I learned a ton, usually by making mistakes first. And when I left 24, I ventured into consulting business and then pursued coaching. I decided to take what I was doing in fitness and expand it into, I use fitness as a platform. I like to say that was my way in. But once I got connected with folks, it was always on a bigger picture around what about life? Where are you? Where's your passion and your purpose? And how can I help bring that to life? And a lot of that ended because I was an executive. It kind of worked into executive coaching. That's where the road has now taken me. And I currently work for Insperity and managing a service team. And what we do there is help folks with their HR, with human resources. So it's been a fun journey. It's been one that you would have never imagined would have started back in the gym when I was teaching classes, but it has been very worthwhile as a career.
Well, a lot of that speaks to me because obviously my whole goal in the platform of Talk Shop, this is just a small piece of it, is to have others come on and share their insight to college students as it relates to the importance of communication skills. So all of that speaks to me, but what I do obviously is run programs for today's youth. That's actually where the learning occurs. This is kind of the for fun piece. So thank you for sharing that. Was there I don't know if flashpoint's the right word to use. Was there a moment in time, could have been high school, college, somewhere in your professional career, that it dawned on you that, you know what, the ability to communicate effectively to a wide variety of people is going to be important? Is there any one little instant that just kind of that popped into your head and kind of rung true?
Matt, it's funny. I would say, looking back, right? You never know those times that your life hits something and you don't realize it at the time. It's a massive turning point. So when I was in college, I went to Penn State. Anybody out there? But I went to Penn State, and I remember taking speech communication and almost failing it. Like, it was awful. And then life just continued on, and I started teaching classes. And the funny thing is, I look back now and I can tell you that my ability to get in front of people and ability to communicate really started in that space of just getting in front and teaching classes. And I had no idea that what I was doing at that point, which was just passionate and fun, and I loved it, eventually was going to teach me a lot of what I needed to know in order to go travel the world for 24 Hour Fitness and literally speak to thousands of people at a time. Who knew? But I will tell you that it's the small things at the beginning that if I said I did anything right, I was always trying to figure out how to communicate better. So when you're teaching a class and you're giving coaching and cues, you watch people in front of you to see if they actually hear what I'm saying and then do what I need them to do. And one of my just passions was like, well, that didn't work. So how do I say that differently? How do I say it so that people get it? And it was really that now, as I train people and do learning and development for organizations, it's the same premise. It's the exact same thing where it's like, how do I say this in a way that people will learn it and understand it, and then not just hear it, but actually listen to it and be able to apply it. So it has been all along the road but there was a point when I realized that what I was doing in my hobby was actually helping my vocation. Mm-hmm. And so I continued to go, well, this is the fun part. So how do I continue to get better, communicate better, find the words, find the voice inflection, find those things that drew people in and ultimately led them to a place where they could understand better. So it was a constant. It wasn't necessarily just one thing, but there was a
Sure.
moment where I could turn back and go, these years, all these years of having fun is actually teaching me something that now has transitioned into a full-time vocation.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to unpack there, and I don't think I'm going to do it all, but there's a lot of great bits there, but there's a
Yeah,
couple things that obviously jump out to me is, the learning and development piece, because again, in essence, that's what Talk Shop is all about, not on the corporate side, but for today's emerging adults. These are high school and college students. So I wanted to kind of pick up on a few things you mentioned there, and that is, look, it's the way you say things, and you have to refine it. And you mentioned earlier, right when we first started, hey, you've learned a lot by mistakes, and so have I. And I think a lot of people should, because that way it's process of elimination in a way. But that's not
right.
the question. What I wanted to do is ask you a question. Maybe it was your time at Penn State, or just as I'll let you decide. But you look at today's students, and they might be afraid to network because they don't know how, so they won't, or they're maybe just not given some good guidance on some good, clean ways to do that. They've got the tools that maybe I won't say that I know I didn't have when I was growing up, meaning LinkedIn, the internet as a whole. There's a lot of ways that you can, craft networking to your advantage. How have you either done it yourself, although it's a two-part question, where it's been successful, just the art of networking, or a way that someone's tried to reach to you to network? I'll let you decide which way you want to answer that. But again, the spirit is, what are some good, positive ways you've seen people network with you, or that you've done it to others?
Right. Thank you. And it's a great question, and it's a great skill. And the truth of the matter is, Matt, the answer is the same. Because here's my answer: curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone's reaching out to me on LinkedIn, curious about me, asking about me, they can hook me. When they reach out to tell me about them, it's a crapshoot if I'm really interested, because where does that even come from? And so to me, curiosity is how you build a network. Do you ask the questions? You've been asking me questions. I'm instantly hooked into that, right? I'm instantly hooked because here's a really big secret. You know what every single person on the planet wants to talk about?
Themselves.
Themselves. They do. And so if you can put aside, right? And I'm not a believer in here's how to win friends and influence people. I'm not about that, because today's world is about authenticity. You've got to really care about what this other person is saying and really seek to learn. And when I'm in front of somebody that I feel that from, I'm engaged. That's a space I want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why the answer is the same, because I apply that exact same thing when I'm out networking. It's people that I'm interested in, I'm curious about. Those are the folks I go to, because in a very authentic way, I really do want to hear their story. And so the trick to
Mm-hmm.
it, if there is a trick, is to turn up your curiosity and turn down your own story for a moment. Turn it down and really seek to understand and seek to hear and seek to learn what there is out there. And that you can, yes, you'll internalize and apply so that you can learn from it. But it's networking with a real authentic purpose of really getting to know someone's story. People want to tell their stories. And you know what? People's stories are amazingly interesting if you
Mm-hmm.
take a moment to sit down and listen to it. And so
Right.
the secret to my networking has been not about what can I give and what can you give me, but it's always been about the relationship. It's always been about the story. It's always been about the foundational connection and understanding. I guess I would almost say it this way. I love to find common ground with everyone I
Mm-hmm.
meet. So what is the thing? What is that? Is it a common thought? Is it a common background? What is that? And so my questions really pose into trying to figure that out. You just got to be careful. It's got to be authentic, because people read through that. And so if I was talking to your audience and saying,
Mm-hmm.
what is the secret to networking? It really starts with asking questions and getting curious and being interested in where someone is or how they got to where they are or what their experiences are. That's where the real connection, not just instantly does this, but where you can build on it, right? Because when I get to know you and I get to know your story, when I meet someone else, and this has really been the secret to my success, when I meet someone else, I know enough about your story and then I get to know theirs. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have someone that you need to meet. So part of my ultimate success in the fitness industry was that I was connecting people to each other. Because once I heard and then, oh my gosh, I have someone you need to meet. And that now I'm giving people. And so the other piece to networking is, are you giving more than you're getting? And your giving shouldn't be your product ever. That's
Right.
not the rationale behind it. So if that's what it is, and we've all seen it, I'm sure you have too. If you're on LinkedIn, someone will reach out to you, and when you accept it, they send you an email, and it's a sales pitch. Instant delete.
Right.
I'll never read it.
Again, your answers are so full of so many different elements that lots of great nuggets here. And I can talk about listening. It's as I'm trying to stare into a camera and think about, oh, what's the next question I want to ask? And I realize, you know what, that's exactly what I teach my clients, if you will, is look, don't worry about the next question you want to ask. Proactively listen, be engaged, because then the conversation might take you somewhere that's even going to be more deep and rich than what you initially thought. And so I just want to make that comment. And I love the comment of listen. Obviously, I've always, teach my students, if you will, to have big ears and a small mouth, which is essentially what you're saying. Listen more, talk less.
Yep.
But it's okay for a new college student that is just starting the networking process, or maybe they're getting the chance to meet with an Ingrid Romero for the first time, face-to-face in an informational meeting. It's okay to ask questions. I get that a lot. Hey, Matt, I'm going to be a little nervous. And yeah, you should have that little fire in your gut if you're going in for an interview. Absolutely. If you don't have nerves, then maybe something else is wrong. But it's okay to ask questions, because if you just break the ice, then you're off to the races. But yes, you do have the right to ask someone a question or to start the conversation. But there are some subtleties there when you're networking and you don't feel like, to your point, to make sure you give something back. Look, there's a point where you just don't have anything to give back. Do you have a personal take on that and how you would help college students if they're in that mindset right now? Absolutely.
I'm looking right at you all. Be honest about it. The best thing you can be, if you're going to walk into a room and into a conversation with me, and you're interested in networking or how I can help, because I do career coaching. Especially changing career. I've done first career coaching, but I've also done, when you're 40 and 50 and you're like, how come all of a sudden I don't even like what I'm doing? I think I want to do something else. How do you jump ship? I've jumped ship a few times, so it can be scary. And I think the most important thing you can be is honest about that. So, walking into a room with someone, knowing that you don't really have much to give, that you're really trying to get as much as you can, be honest about that. And it's okay. So here's the thing. The thought you have that I don't have much to give, or I'm not really sure what to ask, or I'm really nervous about this, that thought that you have, we already know that. Right. Your audience already knows that. It's okay. And so be authentic in the appreciation of the time and the opportunity, and that you're just starting out, you're just trying. And I know that sounds like, why would I ever admit that? Because that's where you're at. So it's okay to say, this is where I'm at. And I think sometimes today's youth feels like they're supposed to be further ahead than they actually are. And that's one of the fallacies. No one's expecting you to be further ahead, but I think if there is an expectation, it's just, let's be honest about where we're at. And so I'm feeling a little lost. I'm feeling a little like I'm really not sure. Have you ever felt that? Yeah, I have. And this is what I did. Right. And, so number one, be honest. Number two, recognize that if you're talking to someone who's had some career success, the only way that they've had any career success is on the heels of numerous failures. Mm-hmm. And they more than likely are happy to share those trip ups and those lessons that they've learned. Ask those questions. And that's, I have to be honest, I opened our conversation with it. I'm very open about here's the mistakes I've made and here's how they've helped me. And, I got to tell you, my dad, I was raised by a very wise man. He still is wise. But one of the things that he always told me was it's not a mistake till you do it the second time. The first time is how you learn.
Right.
And I passed that on, like, just jump.
Right.
You're not going to get anywhere if you don't jump. And it's okay just to jump. And it's okay that it's not perfect. And it's okay that it's messy. And it's okay. It's totally okay. The first time is always the worst time. Always.
Right. And I think, there's, again, so many great points, and I agree with all of them. And I guide that very similar way. I said, look, it's okay. The person you're meeting with, they didn't start out as an expert either. So sometimes you can come out with it and just be, hey, look, you know what it's like to be on the very front end. That's where I am. I'm on the very front end. So I know that may seem like a while back for you, but look, everyone starts out as a novice. No one starts out as an expert. I want to just kind of wrap up with, when the opportunity presents itself for college students to get in front of a professional like yourself, and sometimes there's a couple of faux pas or some nerves. I get it, whether it's a sweaty handshake or all of the multitude of things that do happen. How have you seen someone market themselves, or, if you will, articulate themselves when they've been given the chance to meet with you face to face, that just resonates with you, that just makes you say, okay, I want to hear more about this person? Anything you can share? So maybe, like you said, things that haven't worked for others.
Yeah.
Not to be on a negative, but keeps, more of a reality check. And hey, I've seen some people do this and it works. Anything anything come to mind that you can share on both ends of that?
Sure. I will tell you what, for me personally, what draws me into a conversation will always be when someone starts to, I mean, it's part of who I am. I love to hear about what drives people, their purpose, their passion, right? To start in that arena is always something that I get excited about versus what you've done. I can read a resume. I get more excited, and when people are willing to kind of talk about who they are, how they're wired, and what their dream is. And if you don't tell me, I'm going to ask you. So be prepared in that space to really share. So remember, here's one of the big tips. And again, everything comes back from teaching. When I teach a class, when I'm exercising and showing people how to do certain things, the level that I perform at, everyone always rises slightly below it. They'll never come above me. It's just a rule of life that whoever's leading is always got to have a little bit more. So even though you're the one walking into the room asking the questions, you've got to lead. If you want me to share, you share. If you want me to really put myself out there, you do it first. Little bit. Show the way. And that's how you lead the conversation. That's how you lead the witness, so to speak. If you're sitting back with your arms crossed like this and you're asking me questions, I'm feeding off of you. So if you're interested and you want me to share, you've got to show that to me. And oftentimes that's in so have a story ready to go. Have your go-to. Some people will call it an elevator pitch, but it's like it's being able to walk into a room and walk up to someone and say, "Hi, Matt. My name is Ingrid Romero, and I come from, and this is what I'm passionate about, and I'm here today because I want to explore XYZ." It's that initial, that when you walk in, you have to be prepared with that. You have to be able to state that. And what that will do, if you practice that little elevator pitch, it will guarantee that even though you get nervous, you'll still know what to say initially. Because if you get too nervous and you don't have that first thing scripted, you're going to trip over your words, and then your head's going to start playing a game with you where you shouldn't even be in the room, and so be scripted initially so that you can gain some confidence in that space and you can start the conversation well. And then trust that it will go from there.
I don't want to sound like I'm hosting my own program here, but I kind of am, because at that juncture right there, Ingrid, is where the impact that TalkShop brings. And I am TalkShop. It's just me. For those that are wondering, hey, is there a big company there? No, it's just me. And I take great pride in that, because everything you have mentioned here is I'm in complete nod and in agreement. It's just an interesting, I don't know if generation is the right way to phrase it, where you've got a lot of today's youth that for the most part, they were grown up on screens, if not in their hand, very close to them. So if you will, the life skill of this right now, I'm staring into a camera, but that's the best I can do to look into your eyes and to be able to articulate who I am. What's the impact I can bring to your organization, to your team, to this volunteer opportunity? But to be able to do that in a face-to-face conversation is really what TalkShop's all about. So as we kind of wrap up, is there any little bit of guidance or any tips and techniques you can have, knowing that not all, but many of today's emerging adults do have some issues with having a face-to-face conversation?
Yes.
Anything that you can share? I know that's a loaded question, but I'll ask anyway.
So here's a little funny thing for those of you on social media and that are using it in whatever degree. Practice your elevator pitch and get some feedback from social media on how it sounds and what people like, and they'll tell you. So practice. Folks our age, we might practice in the mirror or with a friend, that the younger generation, I like to refer to myself as an aged millennial. Probably because I'm still using a lot of Facebook. But anytime I start, so here's one thing, anytime I start a live video, and I do my share of live videos, anytime I start my live video, I start with my elevator pitch. Hi, my name is Ingrid Owen. This is what I do. This is who I help. I always start that way. So it rolls off my tongue at this point, and you want to get to that place. So I would, number one, suggest use whatever means you have to practice that, and get comfortable with how you introduce yourself, because it is a learned skill. Number two, eye contact. If you do not look me in the eye, I don't trust you. I just don't trust. And so if that is something that is difficult for you, which a lot of times when we're coming off of screens and into face-to-face interactions, we can get intimidated looking someone in the eye. So I suggest you practice that. Practice looking in the eye and smiling a little bit and making sure, there's no RBF. That is just a natural thing. You've got to practice kind of sitting and having some element of friendliness, right? I always used to tell my kids, if you're happy and you know it, tell your face.
That's right.
And so you've got to be friendly. You got to look friendly, and your voice has got to be friendly. And so practice doing those things. It sounds so simple and so almost like stupid. Like really, it doesn't always come off the same way that it's authentic. And so those are the things. And I say practice until these things just come to you in a way where it's unconscious competence. So in the learning world, right, there's unconscious incompetence, which is I don't know what I don't know. So ignorance is bliss. And then that moment of conscious incompetence where I now am well aware that I don't know anything and I hate this place. We move to conscious competence, which is exhausting because we have to think about what we know to do, and we're trying to put 1 + 1 really does equal 2. And you keep working and you keep working, and it becomes something that you just begin to talk about very openly. And it's like those times when you've gone from work to home or school to home, and you look back when you pull into your driveway and you don't even remember driving there because your brain was somewhere else, but you drove on autopilot. And you want to be able to get these first little interactions with people you haven't met to a place where the only way you'll get comfortable doing it is by doing it. You can't, thinking about it will never get you there. As I tell people in fitness, thinking about fitness has never gotten anybody in shape. Thinking about getting better in face-to-face interactions doesn't happen unless you do it.
Got to practice it a little bit, just a tad. Wonderful insight that you've shared. I always like to wrap up with anyone that comes on, if there's any initiatives or websites or blogs that you would like to share, great. If not, that's okay too. Always like to present the opportunity. So I will do the same with you.
Thank you. if you want to look for me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, it's all the same. It's Ingrid Romero. You can find me. And I talk about this kind of stuff and fitness and all of this. It's all free. It's just, it's a passion for me. And so if you want to follow me and have some fun in the process, feel free to find me.
Absolutely. And I will even plug my own self, because why not? It's my show. I get to do it. Anyone that wants to learn a little bit more about the Talk Shop programs that are geared specifically for high school students, a separate program just for college students, the information is right on the screen. Please feel free to reach out, and look forward to hearing from anyone. Ingrid Romero, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing a lot of great nuggets. I hope that everyone listens and listens carefully. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.